Alright, what is up you guys? So I wanted to come on here and make another video and answer some questions because this is fun. So I wanted to talk about I literally just forgot. I did stop testosterone and some changes did come back, and there are some that definitely has come back is my cycle. It actually did not come back until maybe like 8 months after I stopped testosterone, and even then it was very light. It wasn't heavy. It wasn't as long. It was like maybe like 3 or 4 days versus like that 7 to 8 days, and there wasn't as much pain as, you know, I experienced before starting testosterone. You know, I think a lot of trans guys have an issue with their period. Before starting testosterone, I actually was on birth control because that's how bad the periods were. Like, they were so heavy and so just like, basically. So that's one thing that definitely comes back if you start testosterone. It will eventually come back. Obviously, it's different for different people when it will come back. Yeah, another thing that I wanted to talk about with actually going off your off testosterone and your period coming back. So with me, it took 8 months for it really to come back solidly, and even after then, it has not been as heavy. It's lighter, it's not as long, and you know, I'm not in as much pain as I was when, like, before I started testosterone, if that makes sense. So yeah, so that's definitely one thing that definitely will come back if you go off of testosterone. Another thing that is pretty noticeable that comes back is body fat redistribution. So when you go on T, as you guys know, the body fat redistributes to male body fat pattern redistribution. So basically, you know that women tend to carry more of their weight, or any like excess weight tends to go to what? The hips and the butt. Why? I think it has to do kind of with childbirth. You know, women obviously tend to have, you know, wider hips and a, you know, bigger butt. And I think that's probably just due to, you know, the biology of, you know, women are built in that way because they give childbirth. So that's one thing that definitely comes back is, obviously when you start T, your fat I cannot say that word, redistributes. So for me, when I went on T, obviously your face structure changes, you lose fat in the face. So like less, you can see right now I have a lot of fat in my cheek area. Also, there's just a lot of roundness in my jaw area. So that definitely comes back. I've always had a baby face, but when I was on T for 2 years, my face was definitely more masculine in appearance due to the amount of fat in my face, if that makes sense. So that thing definitely happens. Definitely for me, all of the fat that went to my stomach, which is where fat goes for men, has gone back to my butt and hips. So that is one thing that definitely goes back once you stop testosterone. Another thing that goes back is muscle. Like, this is insane. Like, I remember first starting hormones, and like 2 to 3 months in, like, I felt strong. Like, it almost felt like really easy just to lift weights and stuff. Like, it felt like I didn't even have to try. And it's true that, you know, testosterone does give you the ability to gain muscle super fast, and also you just have more muscle in general. Oh my god, I don't know, like, you just gain muscles like super quick. So, you know, obviously I've always been a pretty like muscular person, and like an athletic person, but like right now, I mean, you can see like I'm pretty muscular, but when I was actually fully on like testosterone for like 2 years, like, my shoulders were way bigger. Also, I was working out more, so that probably had something to do with it, but my shoulders were way bigger. There was a lot more muscle like in my pec area and like my upper pec. My arms were like way larger. My forearms, Also, like, my hands got a little bit more thick because I have pretty like thin fingers, and also just with muscle, you tend to, like, the more muscle you have and the lower percent body fat, you see like your veins more. So that's one thing that went back. Like, I don't see my veins as much like in my body. So yeah, muscle growth, definitely you lose some of that ability to gain muscle quickly and just kind of like that bulkiness too. Another important one, facial hair and hair. So this is one change that actually does not go back, along with the voice. So with the hair, so once you actually go on testosterone and you start growing hair on, on your face, you get hair. Like, I've never been a really hairy person, but I know people who, when they went on testosterone, they're just like hairy, and which is fine. That's cool. So that's one thing that doesn't go back. Once you grow hair in certain areas, it will always be there unless you decide to get like laser treatment or whatever. One thing about the hair, it does become less coarse. So the hair will still be there, it's just not as like coarse when you touch it. Like, my mustache is obviously still here, my little baby mustache, but it's not as coarse as it used to be. And I used to have more hair kind of like coming down to here. I never ever had like a beard or anything. Like, my biological family is not, they are not abundant in facial hair, we'll say that. So, but however, I mean, I honestly don't know. I was only on for just over 2 years. I mean, most people don't really get the full beard. Biological men don't really get that full beard and all the facial hair until like, actually like later, more like late 20s. So who knows? But that's one thing that happens, is facial hair does not go back, but it does get less coarse, and it's like finer and like kind of softer. And so yeah, the voice is something that definitely does not go back. I kind of feel like my voice got a little bit higher, but not enough to be like probably noticeable to anybody except for myself. But that's one thing that does not go back. Once you take testosterone, the vocal cords thicken and they can't unthicken. And so if you go off, your voice is still going to have that kind of deepness. So there is obviously things that you can do if you decided to go off and wanted to like fix your voice and want it to be more like feminine. If you decided to detransition, like vocal therapy and stuff. But yeah, that's one thing that definitely stays forever, basically. So what else? I mean, I'm pretty sure there were a lot of physical changes that, probably like my hairline is one thing. Like, I've always had like a huge ass forehead, but like definitely there's more hair like on my hairline versus when I was on. I was definitely starting to get more male pattern baldness, which I'm actually kind of afraid of because I already like have a hairline that is so far back. And anyway, so that's one thing that probably I think came back as well. And yes, there are a lot of mental and emotional changes that do come back, obviously, because hormones they do that just by themselves. But yeah, I would say probably like anxiety and depression, like when you stop hormones, and this is actually for women and men, because women also have testosterone in their body, just obviously way less amounts. But when those levels are low, I do believe like you can experience things like depression and anxiety and fatigue and lack of motivation. I think probably those things did happen. There was a lot of stuff going on in my life when I did go off at the time. So I'm not really sure which was what and which was due to what, but I'm pretty sure that probably did happen. And also I went cold turkey. like basically I didn't like taper off. I basically was like, which, by the way, don't ever do that. If you decide to go off really anything, you should always taper, because it's just really such a drastic change for your body to deal with in a very short period of time, if that makes sense. So yeah, there were probably a lot of mental and emotional changes. I think, a big one, and I don't like to get into gender stereotypes or anything because I think that is ridiculous, but there is, biology does play some part in how we show up, and I do think testosterone does play a part in how you process certain things and how you perceive certain things and how, I guess, you process your emotions. There's just like, there's I don't know, on testosterone I feel like I definitely was dealing with a lot of like anger and aggression, and off testosterone I feel like it's like not as like getting to the point where I'm like mad, but like overly mad over something that is like ridiculous. And also just knowing what I'm feeling was, I feel like on testosterone is a lot more difficult. I don't know why, but I feel like just trying to process and understand emotions was not happening in the way that I I wanted it to, because I feel like emotions are very, very important, and I felt like testosterone definitely was messing around with that. I don't know if that makes sense. Anyways, those are the changes that come back and some of the changes that don't. Obviously, everything is different for every single person. Everybody's gonna have a different experience. This is just some of my experiences with stopping testosterone. Anyways, thank you guys for watching. Bye.